All right, let's dive into one of the most incredible machines on the entire planet, your nervous system. Seriously, it's this high-speed biological network that lets you think, feel, and act all in the blink of an eye. So, how does it all actually work? Let's find out.
Have you ever stopped to think about this? You decide to go for a run, and bam! Instantly, your heart starts pumping faster, you're breathing deeper, and your muscles are getting exactly what they need. How on earth do all these different parts of your body get the memo and work together so perfectly without you even thinking about it? It's not magic, I promise. It's a fundamental biological process.
And that process has a name: coordination. It's just the way our organs team up and complement each other's functions so everything happens in sync. And it's not just for action either. The moment you stop running, coordination is what tells your heart and lungs, okay, you can calm down now. It's kind of like the invisible director behind absolutely everything your body does.
So how is this massive network even organized? Well, it's actually structured in a really brilliant way, split into two main parts that work together as one seamless system. Let's take a look at the blueprint. Okay, so on one side you've got the central nervous system, the CNS. You can think of this as mission control. It's the brain and the spinal cord, and it's where all the information gets processed and all the big decisions are made. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, or PNS. This is basically every other nerve in your body. The PNS nerves are like the field agents. They're out there gathering intel, sending it back to the CNS, and then carrying out the commands that mission control sends back.
So we've seen the big picture map of the system, right? But to really get how it all works, we've got to zoom in, way in, to look at the single fundamental building block of this entire network.
And here it is, the neuron. These tiny, highly specialized cells are the real heroes of the story. They are the structural and functional units of the whole neural system. Every single thought, every sensation, every movement, it's all being carried by these incredible little messengers.
And if you look at a neuron structure, it is perfectly designed for its job. You can see how information flows in just one direction. The dendrites, these branchy things, act like antennas, picking up signals. The cell body is the core that processes that signal. And the axon, that's the long cable that shoots the signal away to its next stop. It's a perfect one-way street for information.
So, okay, we've got the wire, the neuron. But what about the electricity? What is the actual message that's zipping down that axon at lightning speed? It's not just some vague idea of a message. It's a very specific and honestly, a fascinating biological event. And that event is called the action potential. Now, that might sound a little intimidating, but it's really just the scientific name for the electrical nerve impulse. It's this tiny, super fast, and powerful wave of electricity that lets neurons talk to each other, even over long distances.
Let's break down how this electrical wave gets started. A neuron that's just hanging out, waiting for a signal, is like a tiny charged battery. It's got a positive charge on the outside and a negative charge on the inside. But when a stimulus comes along, it's like someone flips a switch. Tiny gates on the neuron's surface fly open, and all these positive sodium ions rush inside. This instantly flips the charge in that one spot, creating a little spark of electrical energy. That spark then triggers the next set of gates to open, and then the next and the next, creating a chain reaction, this wave of electricity, the action potential that shoots down the axon, and just as quickly, the neuron recharges itself, ready to fire all over again.
Okay, so this electrical wave travels all the way down the axon. But here's the catch. Neurons don't physically touch each other. There's this tiny, tiny gap between them. So how does this signal make the jump? It can't just arc across like a bolt of lightning. The body's got a much cleverer solution.
And that solution is called the synapse. This is that critical junction, that microscopic gap where the signal has to be handed off from one neuron to the next. And this little gap is absolutely crucial. It's a major control point for the flow of all information in your nervous system.
So let's follow the signal. The electrical impulse gets to the very end of the axon, and its arrival triggers the release of these special chemicals called neurotransmitters. These chemicals float across that tiny gap, and then they lock onto receptors on the next neuron, kind of like a key fitting perfectly into a lock. And that action, that key turning in the lock, opens up new channels in the next cell, and boom, a brand new electrical impulse is created. So the signal cleverly converts from electrical to chemical and back to electrical again just to make that tiny jump. It's amazing.
Okay, so we've seen how one single signal travels. Now try to imagine billions, literally billions of these signals firing and connecting every single second.
To make sense of all that traffic, we have to zoom back out and look at where all this information ends up. The command center of the entire system, the brain.
So, the brain has three main regions, and we'll start with the most evolved one, the forebrain. Its biggest component is the cerebrum. You know, that big, wrinkly part you always picture when you think of a brain? This is where the magic happens. Your personality, your memories, your thoughts, they all live here. And deeper inside, you have the hypothalamus, which acts like the body's thermostat, controlling all those fundamental drives like hunger, thirst, and body temperature.
Next up, tucked right between the other two regions, is the midbrain. You can pretty much think of it as a critical relay station. It takes in all the sensory information coming in, especially from your eyes and ears, and makes sure it gets routed to the right places for processing. It's like the main traffic controller in the brain's really complex highway system.
And finally, at the back, we have the hindbrain. This is basically the life support center. It's got some medulla, which handles all the stuff you never, ever have to think about, like breathing and your heartbeat. It also includes the cerebellum, which is so important for balance and coordinating smooth, precise movements. Each part of the brain has its own really distinct and vital job to do.
And really, there you have it. It all starts with a single electrical spark in one neuron, which becomes a chemical leap across a synapse, which then joins billions of other signals getting processed in all these specialized regions of the brain. It is an unbelievably complex, but also incredibly elegant system that coordinates everything that not only keeps us alive, but, well, makes us who we are.
And that kind of brings us to a final, pretty mind-bending thought. Every memory you cherish, every emotion you feel, your entire sense of self, it all comes from the electrical and chemical activity in this network. It's the biological hardware that runs the software of our consciousness. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question, doesn't it? Where is the line between all those electrical impulses and the essence of what truly makes you, well, you?